So last weekend, you watched that cable show set in the sort of fantasy world, looks faintly like reality, has the great costumes, really tense conflict. I was actually thinking of Mad Men, but maybe you were thinking of Game of Thrones. And that's sort of the point I want to make today. We're in the middle of one of those genre kerfuffles that happens once in a while, where literary folks start talking about genre, as shorthand for science fiction or mysteries or horror or romance. Sometimes they're on the attack, and sometimes they're being sort of apologetic. They talk about a guilty pleasure. And then the genre folks respond and either defend or go on the attack themselves. Actually, this time around, Lev Grossman wrote a really nice piece in Time talking about the pleasures and similarities between what we'd call genre and literature. Ursula Le Guin wrote a nice piece a few years ago about the same thing. The point that I want to make, and the reason I brought up Mad Men at the top, is that it's kind of all genre now. What we're really talking about are coming up with a fictional world and a central character, a protagonist, who by dint of being the protagonist is somehow special, trying to navigate a world that is, even if it's based on real life, imaginary. It's a magical world. Whether you're watching the Black Widow fight aliens or Jane Eyre fight the strictures and mores of society, you're still watching a story. What you don't want is boring, right? We already have boring. You know what real life is like. You want an imaginary life. I may not be the best person to talk about this. A couple of years ago, I was having drinks with the head of the sci-fi network, and I was asking him whether I was too much of a fan sometimes. I was talking about the show The Gilmore Girls, that my wife really enjoyed, and asked him, do you think maybe I would really like The Gilmore Girls if it was set in space? And the publicist for the network was next to him, and she leaned in and said, "You're at a meeting with the head of the sci-fi network, and the best you can pitch is Gilmore Girls in space?" No, it wasn't a pitch, but it was a good point, I think. That was the best I could pitch. And the other night we were watching Mad Men, and I looked over at my wife and I said, "You think I would like this show better if it was set on another planet?" And she knows me really well. She leaned in, patted me on the hand and said, "Sweetie, it is."